Jason already covered some of it. He mentioned the chat functions on. So if you have questions regarding this topic, send them in. We'll answer what we can, right now. If they're a little more in depth, we'll get you the information through an email, later this week. So this whole webinar is going to be about an hour long, give or take a little bit. It's the first in a series that we're going to try with Advanced Hunter Education. Since we're not able to do in-person classes right now, we're going to try this format. So if there's topics that you guys are interested in, Sean's going to pass on the information, but be sure to get us that information that you're interested in. So with that, I'll introduce the panel. First is Lieutenant Sean Olagi. Sean is the Advanced Hunter Education Coordinator for our department. He's been with the department for 21 years, and he's been a lifelong resident of Los Banos. He lives for duck hunting. He's in a duck club, but he's got years of experience under his belt hunting the Los Banos area public use areas. Then the other one is Sean, spelled a different way, Sean Allen. Sean's been, he's been the Los Banos wildlife manager for the past 2 years and was the assistant area manager prior to that. Sean has been at the Los Banos wildlife area for 23 years, and he's been with the department for 31 years. So between the two of them, a huge wealth of knowledge. And take it away, Sean, and everybody enjoy.
All right, thank you. So first off, I have a bunch of hunter education instructors chiming in tonight. If you HEI instructors or hunter ed instructors would please put your instructor number, that would be great. That will help us to log your participation in this event. So thank you for coming on. So right now I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully y'all can see it. The reason why we just started with the waterfowl reservation system first was because, first off, waterfowl season actually starts this weekend in our northeast zone of California, which is up near Alturas. But soon we will be having our balance of state and southern San Joaquin and the southern district hunting areas will be opening too. That'll be October 24th. So there's a deadline for reservations to be submitted for those zones by October 7th. So very important that we get you familiar with this reservation system so you can successfully apply and possibly win a chance at a nice hunt on our wildlife areas. So if you look at my screen, I'm sharing, it shows up and down the state, all the state lands that we as Department of Fish and Wildlife have. Type A areas are the ones that are most sought after, but there are opportunities for waterfowl hunting on Type B and Type C areas also. So very important to realize that you have many opportunities, many properties, many acres throughout the state in which you can pursue waterfowl. So we're going to talk about the waterfowl hunt applications. This is this year's regulation booklet that mostly is available online. We're going away from printed product, so you'll be able to see this here available online. And of course, a little humor. Basically, this is true for a lot of duck hunters. You know, up at 4 a.m. to go to work isn't so fun, but when it's time to go hunting, we're all looking forward to it. So what we're going to cover tonight is step-by-step instructions. And although you can apply in person at any licensed vendor, I saw that question already. If you didn't have a computer, how can you apply? You can go to any licensed vendor and apply for reservations through their license kiosk. But you'll probably find it more easy and for yourself and to control what you apply for if you do it online at your own home. You do have to have a hunting license or one ready to purchase while you're in the process in order to apply for reservations. So I'm going to start with a step-by-step on how you get into our license system and how you can apply for reservations. So from our homepage, which is our California Fish and Wildlife, wildlife.ca.gov, you go to a license tab, which you'll see a little licensing logo. When you click on that, you'll see a purchase license choice. This will land you on our customer login and registration page for our license system. Just go ahead and click on that yellow box. And the good thing about our license system, you don't have to remember any user name or ID, user ID or password. You're just going to enter factual information that will be easy for you to always access. So for this first page, it's asking your date of birth, which is all in 4 letters, you know, the sequence that it has, the 2 days, 2 months, 2 days, and 4 digits for the year, and your last name. Oops, excuse me. The next page that you'll get to will be your ID type. Most people will probably select state ID because you know what that is. A lot of us have it memorized. But it'll also take your passport, your Go ID, and some other types of form of identification. You'll enter your state and the number and click next. Now this is very important when you get to this page. This is your profile page. This is the page that you need to make sure all the information there is correct, because upon successful drawing, they're going to contact you at the address that you have stated, the email address you have in there. So very important to make sure that you're up to date on your profile. So right in the middle of the page, you'll see an edit customer profile link. Make sure you're all set up there with the correct information. After we've edited our profile, make sure it's all up to date, we're going to go to purchase license. When we land on this purchase license page, it'll probably land you on the 2020 sport fishing page. So you'll have to select 2020 hunting. And when you're in that page, you'll see anything that you've purchased already will be, they'll have a red mark there telling you that you've purchased it already. So we'll just scroll down from there. Just looking for the reservations. So if you see here on the reservations, this is just a little bit below the licenses and tag area. You'll see there's actually 6 choices for reservation types. Okay. Each application is $1.34 per hunt choice. And applications you have to submit 17 days prior to the hunt date that you're looking for. So you can see the 6 choices here. There's a regular choice, there's a mobility impaired choice, and there's a military veteran choice. That military veteran is a new hunt opportunity that we have late in the year. It's in the middle of February. Juniors also have a chance to put in for the junior hunt. Actually, it's called the youth hunt weekend. They'll have a choice available on only their page. It won't be available on the parents' page. So if a youth would like to put in reservations for an opportunity, it will be available within their profile. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at doing a season-long application, okay? In a season-long application, we can pick all the Sundays, all the Wednesdays, all the Saturdays at a particular area. As you can see by this next page here, it starts a list of the different wildlife areas or national refuges that our hunt program is run at. So you can see there's columns. For instance, in this example, I chose that I wanted to apply for all Saturdays at the Gadwall unit. Well, all those days, there's 15 of them, equal up to 15 choices. If I wanted to put in for the Gadwall unit every day of the year, there would be 44 choices available. But I just want to apply for Saturdays at Gadwall. And going down the list, if I go towards the bottom, you'll see that I also put in 14 choices for the Wednesdays, that's the middle column, of Las Vegas Wildlife Area. And the first column choice are Sundays. I chose Volta Wildlife Area for that. So you can see there's different numbers of days available. It's going to total your purchase there. I have put in for 44 different opportunities and for a total of almost $59. Next step is to accept these choices. So good, I've got 44 choices now in the hat. I'm looking pretty good, but you know what? I want a couple more options. So instead of choosing a season-long application, I can go to the multi-choice application. And what this does is let me handpick all the days that I'm interested for each area. The other good thing about this page, it's listed again in alphabetical order, is it tells you what opportunities you're actually applying for. This middle column here, if I choose to put in for San Luis National Wildlife Refuge, which is located here in Merced County, it tells me that there's blinds that are 2. There's 2 in the 2-person blinds. There's 3 in the 3-person blinds. So there, and also I can put in for free roam, which means I can have up to 2 adults. Each adult may bring up to 2 juniors or 2 non-shooters or 1 of each. So a reservation would be good for a total of 6 people, but no more of them can be, no more than 2 can be hunting adults. So if I choose to select San Luis National Refuge, you'll see that it gives me a calendar. And looking at the calendar, I'm definitely going to apply for opening day, which is the 24th of October. So I'll check that. I also want to apply for the 14th of November because that's a pheasant hunting day. And I like pheasant hunting, and I know it gets really crowded on some of our wildlife areas when pheasant season's coming. So I can choose the 14th. And then maybe I'll choose 6 other days during the winter break where my son may be out of school and we want to get a reservation. So you can see here I have a total of 8 choices. As I proceed down the calendar, it'll give me an option to accept choices. So yes, I have 8 choices at almost $11. I accept it. After I've accepted it, I also have to accept the changes in the multi-choice. So what this is going to do is bring you back out to the multi-choice application. You can put in for other areas if you want, and it'll continue to total every choice that you put in there. After you've made all your choices, you'll accept that. Now it's time to check out. Now we got to pay the little machine to play, as they say. So I have my choices for the multi-choice application and my season long for a total of almost $70. I'm going to check out. Here it is again. It's just stating that that's what's in my cart. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to check out. And it has an option to back out if you want. You can print your choices there, or really it will send you a confirmation when you have your email sent in there. But we're going to enter our credit card information. Okay. And we're going to proceed down to the bottom of the page. And we want to complete our transaction, but before if we want, we can get a confirmation by email. You could click that box, but you definitely need to do this one, which is the one right above the complete transaction. It won't let you complete it unless you click on that box saying that you're at least 18 years of age and authorized to select the purchase. So everything's good. My information's been updated on my profile. I'm going to complete my transaction. So really, at this point, you're done. You cross your fingers and you wait, and you hope that, you know, results will be sent your way 10 to 14 days prior to the shoot day. You have a choice to download the receipts. You don't really need to. You'll get an email copy that will be sent to you also. And basically, you're done. So stand by and wait. But in the meanwhile, before you start there and start going into the reservation system, some things you want to consider. basically, there is a statistic page. There's a link that I can send to you at a later, after the clinic, the webinar. You can see the odds for applying for each refuge. Basically, the statistics are heavily swayed by the number of Saturday applications, though. As you can see, if you can see it, hopefully you can. Saturdays are almost 2 to 1 compared to Sundays and Wednesdays. So almost 500,000 applications went in for Saturdays last year, and only 233,000 for Sundays and 249,000 for Wednesdays. To me, this shows that people are more willing to miss work than they are football. I don't know. So if you want to get a choice, you know, a better odds of getting your choice, try Sundays or Wednesdays for those harder to score locations. Place like Little Dry Creek, okay? You only have a 1 in 138 chances of getting an application there. Basically, every day there's an average probably of almost 2,500 applications for 18 reservation spots. So your odds are very low. Whereas Grizzly Island has really high odds. Almost looks like you don't need reservation. It's 1 in 1.5 times for Grizzly Island on your application. So if you want to feel like a winner, go ahead and put in a couple just for Grizzly Island and say, you can tell your friend, yeah, I got an application. Not tell them where it's for, just tell them you got one. And once again, make sure that you apply 17 days prior to the season, which this year will be October 7th. Make sure you get your applications by October 7th to be available for those opening days in the balance of state. Another thing that you should be aware of before you go to if you win or don't win, make sure that you're ready to go when you're going to go on your hunt, that all the people that are with you are going to be prepared to go through the process. So make sure everybody in your hunting party has their license, their prepaid permit for entry onto the club, not to the club, to the wildlife area. They're not sold at our check stations. They don't sell any items there, okay? Make sure your harvest information program validation is with you, your California duck validation is with you, and a federal duck stamp, okay? If you're over 16 years of age, you will need to have that with you. All right. So we've gone through the process. I'm sure there'll probably be some more questions and we'll address them as we go. But now what? Okay, what are we doing now? Well, this is where I'm gonna bring Sean into the picture. You see Sean there. And I have a quick poll that I actually want to put out here for everybody. If I can go ahead and get you to answer this, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to look at. Have you ever attended a California hunter education class, advanced hunter education class? Okay. We have a lot of people here who follow us on our advanced hunter education, and I appreciate your answers here. So we got 87. I'm going to close it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. All right. So just to show what everybody's been doing, have you ever attended California hunter education, advanced hunter education class? 42% said yes, and 58 said no. You guys are attending one now, so thank you. All right, Sean, you ready to go?
You bet, Sean.
All right, Sean and Sean. So first off, what I want to ask you, based on what conditions we are now, is what practices have been put in place at the refuge to help prevent the spread of COVID? What kind of actions or things are going to take place that are maybe different from previous years?
Yeah, Sean, thank you for, first of all, for having me tonight. I really appreciate being involved in this. And to answer your question about COVID precautions, what we've put in place to date is we've certainly modified how we're going to interact at our checking stations. Much of what we'll be doing is going to be done through windows or plexiglass barriers. But when you arrive at the check station, what you'll first notice is that we're going to ask you to stay in your vehicles. And a couple things that we've done to make it a little easier on our public this year is most of our check stations will have FM transmitters hooked to our PA systems. We will have an FM radio station that you can tune to that will allow you to hear our announcements. And so you won't have to worry about standing in front of the check station, in front of the PA system to make sure you hear your reservation being called. It should come through your car radio. We're also efforting having some visual display light bars out as well to also kind of show that we're now serving reservations 1 through 5, 5 through 10, etc. We certainly will not also be calling as many reservations to the window as we have previously. So expect something along the lines of a 1 through 5, at which point we'd like you to come to the window. There'll be a series of cones or dots or some cue where you can stand to make sure you are properly social distance. And we also will ask you to wear a mask while in line and at the check station windows. Again, we'll be doing business through plexiglass windows. We'll have some speakers in place, we hope, to facilitate better communication. We're going to ask you to put your license up to the window. In many instances, we're efforting a scanning process that may eliminate the need to do that. But at this point, it'll be, hold your license up so we can verify that you've got your California duck stamp validation, turn it over, show us your federal duck stamp, and then drop your reservation letter in a box at the window. And then if it's a one-station window, you'll be given your assignment, go into parking lot 5, 6, blind, whatever. We'll mark that on your permit and then hand that permit out through the window. We'll also ask you to surrender your 1-day, 2-day pass in a box as well and not pass it through. And ultimately, after that, you'll go hunting much as business as usual. We ask when you get to a parking lot, please don't, congregate, grab your gear and head out to your hunting assignment, or again, stay in your vehicle. Upon exiting the wildlife area, we're going to ask you again to do business through the window. We'd ask that you bring your harvest to the window and kind of show us what you've got. If there's some question about the birds that you harvested, certainly early in the season with ellipse birds, it's oftentimes to differentiate between male and female of some species. So we may ask you to present those birds on a small table, step away from them. Our staff will come out, handle those birds, take a look at them, and then we'll decide what you've got. At that point, we'd ask you to drop your permit filled out in another box, drop box, and then you're finished for the day. So that's our hope, is that our hunters will be able to work with us to keep both the public as well as our staff healthy. That is a reality, is we are not a heavily staffed areas in most of these check stations, and if we do end up with illness with our staff, we may be in a really tough spot to run these check stations. So it's going to be very important for all of us so that we can enjoy this season, to put up with a little bit of inconvenience and do our best to make sure we all keep ourselves safe and the staff safe as well. So
good. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to see that our department's made a real effort to keep hunting opportunities available and not give, decide to do away with it just because of COVID. So we're going to make the right appointments to get this be safe. Really quick, I want to launch another poll. I'm going to put this up here. Please list how many years hunting experience, just so we get an idea. All right, we got some really experienced people on our thing tonight. I appreciate you coming and not thinking this is too too belittling of you. So thank you for coming on. All right. So I'm going to stop the poll. I'm going to share the results just really quick to show you what we have. We have a high percentage of 15+ years and a lot of newbies that we're glad you joined us. So thank you for coming. All right. So next, Sean, let's say a person does win a reservation. What are they to do with it? What's going to actually happen after maybe they get chosen for a reservation? I said that they should receive results within 10 to 14 days, but what really happens?
Yeah, that's true, Sean. So again, as you mentioned in your presentation, you've got to get those reservations in 17 days prior to your shoot day. So obviously, if you're doing a season-long application, you're in for one, you're in for all. It's that, specific dates and times that you mentioned where you maybe do a selection with your son. You want to make sure you get that in 17 days ahead of time. Usually, the results are actually posted online or in your queue, usually the day after. So you can actually see if you were successful by checking your homepage. But I believe usually the the reservations that are sent through the mail arrive about 10 days, as you said. So one of the things to do is please read your reservation. I know we're all, oh, go, I got it, I'm number one, and you don't want to read anything else. A lot of very important information on that reservation, so please take the time to read through it, especially in this year. We're going to do our best to communicate possible modifications on when we're taking reservations. So pay special attention to that. That often trips some people up. Hey, I thought you guys were calling, 2 hours before shoot time, and I'm number one, and why am I now the 5th, 8th, 10th guy in line? Well, because we actually started 2.5 hours before, and it was on the reservation. So you definitely want to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I would always suggest to call ahead. Most of our areas have staff that can answer questions. So if you've got some specific questions about arrival times, directions, anything of that nature, feel free to give us a call. The day of, I would suggest if you're unfamiliar with the area, maybe show up a little early. It's going to be a more difficult this year than in previous years to do a lot of hands-on education at the check stations. We're going to be pressed for time, and so we may not have a lot of time when you're in line to answer questions about where do I go, what do I do. So take advantage of maybe the staff being there a half hour, 45 minutes early. Do your best to talk to them at that time. Again, socially distancing, not gathering around the window, but that's kind of a pre. Now the day of, and when it's not your turn, listen for your number, step up to the window, have that license ready to go, and then do your best to have a choice kind of ready to go, or several options in mind. We've seen it many, many times that the guy right before you took that blind, right? He says, blind X, and the guy behind goes, oh, that was the one I was going to choose. So have several options in mind, a couple different game plans, because you never know. Unless you're number one, it's very unlikely that you're in exactly what you had in mind. So have a couple of different ideas in mind.
And probably another thing they want to do is research this before the day of their hunt, if possible, because things are so crazy and erratic the morning of. So definitely that would help. Another thing that I was going to mention, some people were asking on the chat if reservations are required for type C areas. And I believe that's a no, right? That's a first come, first serve?
That's correct. That is a no, and that's true of I believe type B as well.
Yes.
Type A's are the primary areas that have those reservations, and so your B's and your C's are typically not reservation oriented. Some of the B's will have some capacity limitations, but for the most part, B's and C's are open. The only exception is B's also require at least a minimum of a type B pass.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a type A pass, that also works on a type B area. But
Yes.
C's are almost unilaterally free, and normally open 7 days a week, whereas Bs and As oftentimes have restricted days.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. Another quick poll. Hopefully this isn't too annoying to you guys, but we just want to get an idea of where you're hunting. Where are the places that you're looking at hunting or have experience hunting, and whether you've been through our check stations before. So this is really helpful to us to make sure we're giving you good information. And I'm going to shut it off in 10 seconds. 5 and 4. All right, they're visiting our state areas. That's good to see. All right.
Los
you.
Banos Wildlife Area even there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where Sean works, is Los Banos. That was that question too, is where do you work? And he's the Los Banos Wildlife Area. So he's been there for years, probably, well, since before I was a game warden. I used to run through Sean's line. All right. So there's the results, and pretty good. Thank you. All right, there'll only be one more poll at the end. All right, so that being said, you did mention, will the staff be able to tell them where to go? You told them to get there early if they wanted some help, but I would recommend that they get some information, not on the morning of their reservation, but prior to, right?
Yes, I think that's best. I'm kind of watching the chat go by as well, and we'll stay focused on your questions. But there are going to be some resources we're going to try and make available. Traditionally, we've had things posted about blind success, and we'll continue to do that. At least you can see what's happened on previous days on some of our blinds, averages and things of that nature. We're also going to do our best to get as much information on our websites as we can as well, so that they've got, some up-to-minute information, because it just won't be, quite like it used to be when we were able to bring people in the check station, spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes with them, like in an afternoon, and really go give them the rundown. We're going to do our best to do that. It'll be out a window. That may not be as productive. Hopefully it will be, but certainly we're going to do our best to get as much information out there as it can, so that people can make good, informed decisions and feel, excited about coming out of here versus apprehensive about, oh, I've never been there. Am I going to get lost? What about the snakes?
So you don't want them to have reservations?
Reservations about their reservation?
Yes. All right. Dun dun dun.
You can tell you're over 40 with those puns, pal.
Well, anyways, just wanted to see if anybody's paying attention.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. So if they don't win a reservation and they want to get onto the refuge, what are their options for that?
So again, great question. Actually, there's been several of those pop up. We do have a lottery. So the idea is that if every reservation were to show up at the Los Banos Wildlife Area or any of our wildlife areas, the area would be filled to its capacity. We know that not all our reservations show up, so we've created a somewhat orderly way to fill in or to reach capacity if we want, and that is our lottery system. And so throughout the state, in most areas, there are going to be a lottery that's held the night before the shoot day. So if you weren't successful with a reservation, you can show up, at least in our area, between 6 and 9. I believe up in the Sacramento Valley, that varies between 5 and 8. And because of COVID, there are going to be some restrictions this year on how many lotteries you can enter. It's really one. And there'll also be some modifications on that registration time. I think they're going to narrow the window quite a bit in the Sac Valley to try and make sure that people are not going to multiple lotteries. But you personally are allowed to only be in one lottery. You can divide and conquer, but send your hunting partner to one place and you go to another if you so choose, but you can't be in multiple lotteries. So you can't do the drive from one to the next to the next. Again, the hope is to minimize exposure. Instead of having maybe one person that's ill starting at Colusa and making the circuit from Colusa to delve into Sac to Dry Creek and ending up at Gray Lodge, and thereby exposing lots of people. It's kind of pick your poison, grab one spot and go.
Yeah.
So, but that lottery process will be very similar to last year. You'll come up, appear in person. You'll get your license will actually be scanned here in the grasslands. You'll receive a ticket, and that ticket will have a number, and then you can check your results online. You won't have to come back to the check station, just like we did last year. You'll check your results online to see how you did. You know, if you've got a low number, then there's a very good likelihood that you'll get on. If you're, you know, mid to high numbers, unless we're in the middle of the season, it'll be more difficult.
Okay.
We do also keep that list active. So for example, on opening day, if you do have a medium to high number, we will go through that entire list and do what we call purge the list. So if we do fill, we'll go to the very next person on that list and say, hey, are you here? If you're here, you'll maintain that position on the list, and we'll go through the entire list to see who's still here.
Yes.
And then we'll use that list to refill throughout the day. We usually only do that again opening day and maybe 1 or 2 days around Christmas when we're really busy. But for the most part, if you aren't able to be in the lottery, we do have walk-up opportunities. So that does mean if you can only show up the morning of the hunt, you'll kind of be in the back of the line, if you will. We'll clear our reservations, we'll clear our lottery, and then if we still have room, we'll start taking walk-ups at that point. So there's still a chance to get on. And then certainly throughout the day, as hunters come out, we'll put hunters in. If we have capacity still available any time of the day, you can walk up for an afternoon hunt. We just ask that you're here no later than 3 p.m. That's when we stop selling permits, hoping to, you know, make sure that anybody that's already set up out there doesn't get crowded out by someone that arrives a half hour before the end of shoot time.
All right. Having a lot of questions about how many people can come in on a reservation, and I'm going to share my screen with something that our department produces about filling and stuff. If you guys can see this, there's this form, and I'll have it available as a link. Their Waterfowl Reservation information. It's Form DFW 1596. It tells all the areas, what area they are, what your reservation is good for, what time you should be there before the shoot time, how long your reservation is good for, and then also refilling or filling procedures. So Sean was talking about a lottery. The night before the hunt, if you don't have a reservation, you can apply for some of the areas by going to that check station and putting your name, by showing your hunting license. They're going to scan it. They're going to do a random lottery, just a machine generated order, and it'll be, that's what you're saying, you could check online to see where you stand for that. So this form has 2.5 pages of the different areas, tells what each reservation is valid for, what time you should be there, how long it lasts, and other filling procedures. So this is a really good one to know before you actually apply for the refuge. That way you know what you can expect when you want to go there. Okay, you can go on a buddies. This is a good process too. Is as long as the recipient is there, he can bring whatever people he wants, as long as it's not exceeding the amount. So they don't have to be named on the reservation. Just the person who has the reservation issued to them needs to be there. Correct, Sean?
Yes, the reservation holder has to be present. That reservation is not transferable. Now, when it comes to our lottery, at least in the grasslands, a little different up in the Sac Valley. But when it comes to the grasslands, if you put in the night before, you can take up to 1 guest or the capacity of the blind. If you're in free roam, again, you can take the 2 adult hunters, up to 4 juniors, or 4 non-shooters and 1 of each, what you discussed earlier. But I think that's an important principle just for people to know. Rule of thumb, if it's a free roam area, typically it's that 2 adults and up to 4 juniors or a combination. If it's a blinded area, that reservation is good for the capacity of the blind or the capacity of the boat or whatever that capacity is. So in some instance, Sac National, for example, where they have 4-person blinds, you could in fact bring 4 people in on a reservation. So, that's just, and again, Sean, that sheet you brought up is a great reference. It looks like it has been updated. I think you saw some of the lottery times alluded to in there as well. So definitely use that as a great resource.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great one. And you have to realize that some of them are limited. They may say they have 4-man blinds, but they may only have 2 of them. So if you're not on the first top 2 picks, you might reconsidering your plans, because those might not be available.
Correct.
And you cannot say, well, I have a reservation and these are my 6 people. I want to go to this blind and I want to send them somewhere else. It doesn't work that way, right?
That's great. You cannot split a reservation. All members of the party have to go to the same blind or the same parking lot, whether it be, again, a configuration of 2 adults, 4 juniors, or just 2 people, period, because the capacity of the blind is a 2-person blind.
Yeah. All right. Last poll, here it is. We have 15 minutes left. I want this poll to be answered, and then we'll have some open question answer questions that will be posed. Maybe Robert can come back on and see, present us with some questions we didn't have. Okay, so some have always applied. That's great. Some are likely, less likely, and some probably will not. All right. So I'm going to end the polling in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for your answering. And here's the results, the end. So more likely, all right, we've met our objective. More than half of them are more likely to apply for reservations. I thank you for that.
Good.
Right. So, Robert, you there? Mr. Pelsman, Captain Pelsman? All right.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions that we weren't following along that we could answer?
Well, the questions were coming in hot and heavy there for a while, so hopefully we can get caught up on some. One is basically dealing with lottery results. Are they all going to be, for all areas, are they going to be online, or is that just Los Banos wildlife areas?
So Ron, I can definitely speak to the grasslands area. We will have all of our facilities, lotteries online, just as we had last year. I'm not sure where the Sacramento Valley or the Imperial areas are at this time. They are trying to take advantage of that and get it up to speed, and hopefully they'll be able to do that. But unfortunately, I don't really know if they're there yet.
I see there's another question that came in a lot, was the camping. Is the camping still available on the wildlife areas with the COVID restriction?
It is, Sean. So in the camping, we're have already done our drawing for the permitted camping for the ones that get to stay. So that opportunity is gone by. But we will allow you to bring a camper, a trailer, to the wildlife area on the night before shoot day. So if you come in on a Friday, we've got usually room in most of these areas. We'd ask that you don't take the big giant, school bus size ones. There is a restriction of 30 feet maximum. That's in the regulations. So, but we will allow those to come in the night before the hunt, but they will need to leave, after the shoot day or after the weekend. So come in Friday, it needs to go home with you on Saturday. You can't leave it on the parking lot, at least here at, in the grasslands. Some areas like Gray Lodge, Mendota, do allow you to leave those trailers. They don't do a drawing like we do. There usually are, if you just register with the facility, they allow you to leave those there at an extended period. So check your local listings when it comes to that. But the good news is we were allowed by leadership to continue to allow camping, again, with all the appropriate social distancing and precautions when it comes to, crowding and gatherings.
All right. I had some other questions people wanted to know about youth opportunities, and I'm going to share our 2020 waterfowl hunting newsletter. This is another form that's available underneath the waterfowl link on our webpage. It is also a link I'll hope to share with you after the seminar or webinar. It has a lot of good information on there that maybe we didn't present tonight, that you can get on this printout. It's very well put together. There are some junior opportunities available on this. Also talks about the youth hunt. This is new this year. The age for youth, junior hunter went back down to below 16, but the youth hunt, different word, is still open to those under the age of 18, okay? Here's some options for the youth waterfowl hunt. You can see that this is all listed in the, this printout that's available, and I'll share the link later. But there's also other opportunities at Delavan. They have a middle of the season on December 12th. They have a special junior hunt where all the blinds are reserved for juniors. There's also a special day out at Sacramento where they have the same thing out there. So there are some hunts and special things available also for the veterans and active military, which will be later in the season. It should be great hunting at that time of year. I hope to sponsor and have some veterans out at my duck club on that weekend. So there are opportunities available for people if you pursue them.
Well, and something to also note, Sean, here in the grasslands, that in some other areas, there are junior specific blinds in areas that aren't just special events, but they're open, throughout the year. Los Banos has J1, 2, and 3, and our mud slough unit, which usually opens around Thanksgiving time, that are open to juniors and their adult escorts, and both individuals can hunt in those areas, and they're designated just for kids. And one quick thing about your junior weekend at the end of the season, yes, 16 and 17-year-olds can go out and hunt, but they must be accompanied by an adult, 18 years of age or older.
Non-hunting.
Non-hunting adult, that's correct.
Yeah. I see another question that says electric bikes, are they considered motorized vehicles?
They are considered motorized vehicles.
Yeah, yeah.
I have one here that kind of sums up a bunch of questions that were in there, and it's basically dealing with the reservation. Is the number of people listed on the reservation the same as the number of people on your lottery? The same. Let me back up. Is the number of people listed on the reservation the same as the number of people on your lottery number?
They're two different things.
Yeah.
Two different things. So you have a reservation that you've received ahead of the shoot day because you put into the reservation system, and it's going to be, as we discussed, good for either that 2 adult hunters and up to 4 juniors in a free roam situation, or the capacity of the blind. So it could be 4, it could be 2. So that reservation is different from the lottery in that the lottery is done the night before. And depending upon, again, what area you're going to, that usually is, again, good for 2 adult hunters and up to 4 juniors in free roam, or for the capacity of the blinds at that specific area. So they're similar in that regard, but they're different in that one is done well ahead of time and is a guaranteed entry, whereas the lottery is done the night before, is not a guaranteed entry. It's only if we have capacity, because all our reservation holders did not show up. Does that make sense?
Yep, I think that makes it a lot clearer.
I saw another question that talked about junior hunts, and junior hunts are different than the youth hunt. So if something is labeled a junior hunt, they must have a junior hunt license, junior hunter license. If it's the youth hunt, which is only the one that's after the season, they have to be under the age of 18. So hopefully that clears that up with some people.
One more question that's come in a couple times. It's not directly related to the reservations, but it is a little bit. Want to know if they can scout the area before hunting season and or the day of the reservation.
No, generally speaking, you can't go out on the area the day before a shoot day, with, I guess, the exception of a Sunday. So the areas are closed and only open for hunting usually Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, leaving the birds alone on that Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, minimizing disturbance, kind of giving the refuge back to the birds who do need to have some peace, ability to feed and be undisturbed. So the best I can tell you, in some instances, you can go on some of the perimeters of these areas with a good spotting scope or some binoculars, and observe some of that duck behavior from a distance. No drones or anything of that nature. But unfortunately, there's not really great time for scouting prior to the hunt day. What I do tell people is, if you're unfamiliar with these areas, coming in on an afternoon, on a Wednesday afternoon, or on a Saturday afternoon, or a Sunday afternoon, walking around in the daylight, kind of familiarizing yourself with those areas, is a very good thing to do, especially if you're new. The other thing to know is that most of these areas are open middle of February. This year it's going to be later in February, where you can go out and the ponds are still flooded. The blinds are still there, and you can familiarize yourself and watch some, duck behavior, sharpen your skills, and get to know the area a little better post-season as well. But unfortunately, these areas would not be open the day before for scouting.
Got another really good question here. Since we have a mix of people experience-wise, we've got a little jargon in here. Want to know what free roam means?
Very good question. So it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So in essence, what we've got is assigned areas. Blind areas are a fixed location. If you're going to blind 4 in Las Banas, you will park in parking lot 8, and you will follow the signs out to a actual blind in the pond that you will walk out in and sit in and use for that day, right? Or for as long as you're there. Whereas free roam, in many instances, you could be assigned to a parking lot where you go to that parking lot, and there are a series of ponds in proximity to that parking lot where you walk out to any of those ponds, and provided someone else is not there, or if they're there, they're in a location where there's a safe distance between you, and then you go out and you pick a spot in that pond, tule patch, whatever the case may be, and you hunt. Or the most extreme free roam is that an area like Mendota, for example, you go through the gate, there's no hunting assignment, you go to any parking lot that you want to go to, and you walk out to any pond you want to walk out to, and provided there's no one there, you are free to go and roam around and either jump shoot or set up decoys or pass shoot or whatever you care to do in free roam. Whereas oftentimes when you're in an assigned pond or a blind area, you're kind of confined to those areas, either within the boundaries of pond or literally within the boundaries of a barrel blind, a stand-up style blind, a mound, a stake. All those are different ways that we, ask you to stay in that proximity. Versus free roam, you can, in many instances, go most anywhere.
There's another kind of basic question, I think, if I'm understanding the question correctly. They want to know if they can bring their dog, and then they want to know about, I believe, the availability of waders and decoys.
So yes, you can bring a dog. We would suggest that it's a hunting dog. Unless your Chihuahua can really swim well, it's probably not the best thing to have out here. But yeah, trained hunting dogs are highly encouraged. They certainly make sport more humane and the hunter more effective in retrieving those birds and finding birds. As for waders and decoys, there's not really any programs that I'm aware of that have waders and decoys available at the check station. Oftentimes those are something that you need to have or make a purchase or borrow, depending upon what your circle of friends are. Sean, I'll defer to you. Are you aware of any programs?
Well, I know that you guys used to have the mobility impaired blinds sometimes set up with decoys. Is that still true?
We do have those decoys, and we probably will do that in a couple of our mobility pairs on Los Panos. But
so that's like nice.
We also found a lot of those folks weren't really happy with our decoys, and they wanted to put their own out. So that was the kind of the trade-off, is that
I would also add for the dog part, don't take your dog unless you can control them, because if you can't control them, it could interrupt your hunt very much so, and somebody else's. And we have seen altercations happen on the refuges between dog owners. So make sure you can control your dog while you're out in the field. If you can't, think about getting them trained up before you go out.
Agreed.
Any other questions that we should answer, Robert?
A couple of them are very specific, and I think it'd be best to address them one-on-one.
Okay. All right. Well, we're reaching our time limit. We're almost to 7 o'clock, and I see we still have almost pretty much full attendance, so that's great. You guys stuck with us, and I would definitely like to host another webinar like this. I will be sending you a post-webinar message. It will have a survey link in there, and if you guys answer that survey, you'll help me out to figure out what other seminars to present. So I really want to thank you for coming on tonight, and would like to hopefully see you again in the future. So thank you for coming on. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, panel, for answering chat questions. And anything that, all the chat was recorded. Anything that didn't get answered, I will try to answer in the next coming days. I saw a lot of messages going across, so that might be a task to do. But thank you very much for attending. So on that note, we'll see you later. And thank you for coming to see us tonight.
Thank you, Sean.